Morning, everybody, and I mean very early morning to anybody watching. I'm up because I kind of slept in a little bit and, slept a little bit during the day and really didn't get moving until almost after 12. But I thought I'd pose this question to those here in the what's called the IWC Internet Wrestling Community and the YWC, the YouTube Wrestling Community. And more importantly, their names will be down below in the description. The British Fizz, Dads on Wrestling, the OTRS, Off the Rope Show, TheBradRules, Tree of Woe, NoDQ.com, the Wrestling Community on Facebook, Wrestling Community Center on Facebook, World of Wrestling Chat, if you will. And the list could go on. Sean's View Entertainment. Again, list goes on. Here's a question I have. You see, just recently, just moments ago, I was watching a DVD I had. In fact, it's a DVD I recorded about basically 5 years ago. 5 years ago, and I want to get your thoughts on this because I've got some thoughts on it myself. And that is, about 6 years ago, and it ran for about 2 years, WWE decided to bring back Saturday night's main event. Now, a lot of people, when this was first announced, were happy about it because this was something that they, as wrestling fans, had grown up on in the 1980s and throughout the 90s, and throughout the early to mid 90s. We grew up on Saturday night's main event, and then when it became known as the main event and so on and everything, we kind of grew up on that. Now, we all know that the sort of a new reincarnation. It's going to be a weekly series, sort of a new reincarnation maybe. There's going to be a weekly series on the ION network this October. A lot of people pretty much have kind of holding judgment for it because basically, from what we understand, the main event is supposed to be something like Superstars, but feature more prominently main event players as well, and kind of allow what goes on there to be integrated into the programming of SmackDown and Raw. So in other words, the storyline could continue on the main event, and then that can still continue on to, like, say, SmackDown or something. Like let's say, for example, right now the current main event storyline going on Raw is CM Punk and John Cena. An example of what they're talking about with the main event is, let's say John Cena wins a match on the main event, CM Punk comes out and attacks him, that can be recapped and used on Raw. That can be used to be followed up on Raw. So that's kind of an example of what they're talking about. But that's basically what I feel is the main event's going to be. More of a reincarnation of Saturday night's main event, the main event show that happened many years ago on USA. But you kind of get what I'm saying. But speaking about Saturday night's main event, getting back on topic here, 6 years ago they decided to bring it back, and I thought it was great. They started off with a bang. I mean, they really started off very well. They got, the card was right. I mean, everything was just planned out superbly. Just superbly. I think they brought it back before WrestleMania 22, I believe. So, yeah, WrestleMania 22. So, yeah, it was planned out very, very well. But then, as time went on, and you kept having Saturday night's main event come around, things started to get a little wonky, if you will, when it came to the card structure, or the editing structure, or whatever you wanted to call it. I mean, one of the first things they did, of course, was I think the first one was live. I'm not really sure. It was very recent. I don't know if it was live or recent. I can't really remember. But then as time went on, it just started to get more wonky, if you will. I mean, it would be taped before a Raw or a SmackDown. and then it would get broadcast on NBC, which was okay, but the card structure was kind of, like I say, out of whack. I mean, the one I just watched, the last match that was on there, was an ECW tag team match with CM Punk and the Boogeyman versus John Morrison and Big Daddy V. Now, you would think from a structure standpoint, that would be more like something that would open the card or open Saturday Night's Main Event, or be like the second match on there. The match that opened Saturday Night's Main Event was a main event tag team match with Batista and Kane versus the Great Khali and Finlay. And then after that, you had, and this was during the time when they were doing the whole Hornswoggle, the whole illegitimate child storyline with McMahon. So that was like the second segment. And that's when Stone Cold was involved as well. In that segment, I should say. Then they had, I think they had John Cena and Carlito after that, with an attack by Randy, a post-match attack by Randy Orton, and then they led into the tag match. And then the last match was the ECW match. And again, it was kind of strange. It's kind of strange to me how out of whack the card structure got. It's like whoever was booking or editing the Saturday night footage, it's like they weren't thinking. They were like, oh, wait a minute. You know, this match should be, you know, I don't know who was in charge. And that kind of bugged me for a while. And then one of the other more recent ones I had, I think it was one of the last ones they had, the main event was a 6-man tag match. Well, actually it wasn't the second. I think this was probably the last one, or second to last one. I can't remember. But the one that came before this, I think it was like a couple of months before this, it involved DX. And DX in a main event handicap match, I think, was in the middle of the show. And I think they were going against the Spirit Squad. And what was funny about this is that the main event, the match, the last match that closed that Saturday Night's Main Event was a 6-man tag. It involved Kane teaming with Doink and Eugene against Viscera, Umaga, and Kevin Thorne. And again, I'm thinking, okay, that's an alright 6-man, and that might be good for maybe the second match of the night on Saturday Night's Main Event, but it was closing out the show? I mean, I can understand it. I can understand you thinking, okay, Kane is sort of a main event, upper mid-card main event guy, so it makes sense. But to me, I'm thinking, really? You know, it just didn't make sense to me at all. It didn't. I mean, the structure at first, when it first started, was good. I'm hoping I'm right and correct in what I'm saying there. Maybe some of you can correct me on that if I'm not thinking of something correctly, or if I'm misjudging something. I'm not really sure. But that was good and everything when it first started out. I mean, the structure in somewhat was good. You had a main event match that would start off. I will admit they still did that. But then you would have a main event segment or main event match ending the show. But again, it just got a little wonky. And I couldn't understand that. I mean, I kind of get, that, you know, some of you might say, well, they did that back in the original Saturday Night Main Event, Brian. They did that with Hulk Hogan defending the title in the middle of the show, and then they would end it with some random match. Yeah, I get they would do that, but most of the time, from what I remember, the main event match, the main event match would either be the ending match, or you'd have two main event segments. One at the beginning, one at the end. And to me, it's like the structure just got out of whack with this new rendition, in my opinion. And I think that's why you don't see it anymore. That's why you don't hear NBC announcing, WWE announcing Saturday Night's Main Event on NBC. You don't hear that. All you hear once a year after SummerSlam, which is basically around the time, is a replay, a highlight show being shown of WrestleMania, highlighted by one match being shown in its entirety, like they had Rock and Cena this past Saturday. But again, But the thing is, that's good and all, get him that exposure on NBC, but still, Saturday night's main event was, I thought, would really do good in its reincarnation, and, excuse my language, but they fucked it up. They literally fucked Saturday night's main event up. I mean, like I said, I don't know who was in charge of the booking of that show. I don't know who was in charge of the editing of the show. But if you're going to put a show like Saturday night's main event together, you're going to show that on Saturday nights, and you want to get good ratings, you better damn well structure it to where it will get people's attention. For example, if you're going to have John Cena, like the one like on the Saturday night's main event that I have, if you're going to have John Cena versus Carlito, it was a post-match attack by Randy Orton, you better damn well have that at the end of the show. Because that way you could end Saturday's main event on a cliffhanger, which would be somewhat resolved on the following Raw. You don't close it out with a six-man tag, with a tag team match, focused on ECW. I mean, I understand they were trying to build ECW into their image, get people used to it, but look what happened there. I mean, nowadays, if you were to have CM Punk, look, CM Punk's a great talent. Even back then, when I heard he signed with WWE, I was happy because I knew the guy. Through internets and everything, I knew the guy. I knew what he was capable of. And even back then, I knew he was good. But, CM Punk in ECW is more of a opening, in a ECW tag match, more of an opening segment or the middle of the card. Maybe even a middle of the card segment or match, if you know what I mean. The CM Punk now, yeah, I would definitely believe him being in the final match if it's a tag match. The CM Punk now, I would believe that. Again, though, to me, Saturday night's main event, when they brought it back, I thought it had potential to really take off and be something NBC could use. But apparently it wasn't. Apparently it wasn't going to be that way, and it failed. It failed because as the Saturday night specials went along, whoever booked it or booked the editing structure of the show, even when it was taped, didn't book it the way it should have been. You know what I'm saying? So, give me your thoughts. I'm asking you, the British Fist. I'm asking you, the Off the Rope Show. I'm asking you, the Brad Rules. I'm asking you, Sean's View Entertainment. Dads on Wrestling. Wrestling Community Central here on Facebook. World of Wrestling Chat on Facebook. And anybody else involved, Trio World. I'm asking you all this question. And into the entire YWC. What were your thoughts on the latest, on Saturday night's main event's latest reincarnation? Or on the Saturday night main event reincarnation? What were your thoughts on it? Did you think it was good? Or do you agree with what I said? Give me your opinions. Video response if you like down below. Let me know what you guys think. Because quite honestly, in my opinion, I'm a wrestling fan, but even I question the structure later on with Saturday night's main event. So let me know what you guys think. Comment down below, response if you like, and I would appreciate a video response. Let me know what you guys think below, and I'll talk to you all later.